Hi everyone, this is Val from EurekaCrystalBeads.com with another sparkling beading video. But before I get started, here's a quick reminder to check out our channel, and if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button and notification bell to be notified every time we have a new listing. Today's project is a 3D beaded ball keychain. And it's just a really fun way to show off some textures and color and sparkle of the Swarovski crystal. You can also make it with the check glass pinch beads, which just gives it a different level of texture. The supplies you're going to be needing today are some Supplemax or some monofilament in clear, some Japanese round seed beads in size 11, Swarovski crystal in a 6mm bicone, and a keychain set, and then one little beaded ball, or one little round ball rather. You'll also be needing a flat nose plier or a round nose plier, just 2 pieces all together, and you'll also be needing a scissors. Ordinarily, I would be using a clear Supplemax for this project, but because I think it's a little easier for you to see what I'm doing, I'm going to be using a black monofilament. Also, I want to point out today that for this kind of ball, you could use either a single color of crystal, or if not a single, then the next color combination that looks best would be either 5 or 6 colors of crystal. Because if you're just using a few colors of crystal, the way it kind of works out, it doesn't look quite as nice unless you really plan it out and pattern it carefully. So I'm going to be using 6 different shades today. Now the first thing you want to do is you're going to take one end of your thread and string up 3 sections of seed bead and crystal alternated. So starting always with a seed bead, we're going to be putting 1 seed bead and a crystal and alternating that same thing 3 times. Okay, so our first step here where we have 3 seed beads and crystals alternated. Now the end with the seed bead, where it's going to cross into this last crystal added there. So this side has my seed bead, and so I'm going to cross into that crystal. So this is the end, and then I'm just going to cross into here. So it kind of looks like a cat whisker when you cross into it. And now you just want to make your project go to the center of your line when you pull your lines tight. And so now it looks like this little triangle. So we're always going to put a seed bead on one side, which is going to be this side, and this side will have 2 sets of seed bead crystal in this next step. So seed bead, 2 seed beads, and crystal alternated. Okay, so seed bead crystal 2 times. And this other end will just have 1 seed bead. Kind of bouncy at first. It gets a little easier as you go along. So seed bead on one end and cross into the last crystal added. Okay, and then you're going to want to pull your lines tight. So now when you look at it, it kind of reminds you of a bow tie. So you see how there's 2 seed beads here and just that 1 seed bead here. If you kind of lose track of your project of where you are, always know that the side that just has a seed bead will have more seed beads on this side. So seed bead on this side, 2 sets of seed bead and crystal alternated on this side. Okay, so 2 sets of seed bead alternated. This side would just have 1 seed bead and cross through the last bead added. And pull your lines tight. So you see a little circle starting to form. So again, 1 seed bead this side, 2 sets of seed beads and crystal alternated. Kind of as just a repetitive pattern, you'll see how the flower circle shapes start to form as you go along. So you have your 2 sets of seed bead crystal, and this side just has a seed bead and cross into the crystal. All right, so now when you're looking at it, you have 5 crystals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that are kind of sort of forming a circle here. But now you see you just have 4 seed beads. So we want to add onto this string one seed bead and sew into this seed bead. So one seed bead here, and we're going to string into this bead right here. This is what we're doing to close our circle of 5. Okay, there we go. So you see this floating bead here? So now this side will have one seed bead, and now we want to close up our top. So one seed bead here, and this side will have one seed bead and one bicone. And I just want to see what color that I want to stick. I'm going to stick a green there. You can choose the colors of your beads as you go along, or just randomly pick them up and be surprised with what you come up with. So my seed bead here, my bicone here, crystal, and my seed bead on this end. And remember, always the seed bead end will always cross through the crystal on the other side. Kind of a way to remember, it doesn't change, so that's what makes it quite easy. All right, so we have this one section done. So if you take a look, this is one section of flower here, just like this part. So now we're ready to add our next section to our ball. So on this side, we'll have a seed bead. This side, you're going to do 2 sections alternated of seed bead and crystal. Okay, so 2 seed bead and crystal alternated, 1 seed bead, and the side with the seed bead crosses into the last bead added. Okay, so now it looks like this. So you see how we had a flower started, and now we're starting off with our next section, and it just kind of starts borrowing from each other, which is pretty cool. Makes the project grow pretty quickly. So this side, remember the side with the seed beads inside, you'll know that that side has a seed bead, and this side will have 2 seed beads and crystals alternated. Okay, so I have that there. Opposite side, we'll just have 1 seed bead. And just pull your lines tight. And now you already see that you have a next section of 5 already. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bicones, and right now we have 4 seed beads. So just remember, always when you see that, you have to start to close off your top. So connect. So 1 seed bead on this side, and it will go into this green bead. So that bead on the end. I have my seed bead. I'm going to sew into this bicone right here. So now you see where it's just kind of floating across the top. Now this side will have 1 seed bead. This side's going to have 1 seed bead, 1 crystal, because we're closing off that top piece right there. So I have a seed bead crystal, and this other end will just have 1 seed bead and cross into the last crystal added. All right, so when we look at this, we have 2 sections of flowers all done. So if you look at it this way, you can see the inside, the outside is pretty much the same. Remember I told you earlier to always look for the side with the more seed beads, and this is where you always put your single seed bead. So this side will just have 1 seed bead. This side's going to have 2 sets of seed bead crystals alternated. Okay, so my 2 seed beads and crystals alternated. The opposite side just has that 1 seed bead, and now I'm just going to cross into my last bead added. Right, so you see how our ball here, now we have already 5 crystals, 4 seed beads, and so I'm just going to continue at this point just to go across to join like we've been doing all along, because now we're closing up our 5, and this side just going to have 1 seed bead, and remember we're closing our top, so 1 seed bead, 1 crystal. All right, so now we have 3 sections of little flowers already made. So I'm going to continue what I've been doing all along to a few more steps. I'll catch up with you guys in just a few minutes. I'm at the point now where you can kind of do a spot check, or I call them photo checks sometimes. So when you look at the top, it kind of looks like a top of a basket. And you're going to count your crystals on the top. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 crystal bicones at the top. And when you look around it, you see all the little circles of 5 that form each flower. And you want to make sure that it always has 5, never 6, never 4, because that will tell you that you did something wrong. So then you just take it apart and start all over again. And just remember, talk to yourself the whole time you do it, because it really just makes it easier. Well, it does for me anyway. So at this point, if you think about it, I have a little basket. And so I want to continue, but at this point you see I have 3 seed beads on each side, and you think, okay, she said the one with more seed beads, but at this point it's all the same. But I tend to always add a seed bead on this side, and on this opposite side I do my seed bead crystal alternates. So I'm going to do a seed bead here and 2 sets of seed bead crystal alternated on this opposite side. Okay, so 1 seed bead, and this side is going to have the seed bead crystal alternated. Okay, so our seed bead crystal alternated on that end, and the opposite side that just has a seed bead will cross into the last bead added. So now we have our 5 already and the 4 seed beads. So this side will have 1 seed bead go across to the top. And it's nothing different than what we've been doing, but I just wanted to stop at that point just to make sure that you knew where to go next. So we're going to close off our top. This side will have 1 seed bead. This side is going to have 1 seed bead and 1 crystal, because we're just making our top piece. So 1 seed bead on this side, cross the last crystal bead added, and you see how it closes off the next top. Okay, so right here is what we just did. And this side already has 5, so that makes it really nice for us. So now we just add 1 seed bead, go through the next bead next to it, add 1 seed bead on this side, and 1 seed bead on crystal on this side. Because we're just closing off our top. And so cross into that last bead added. All right, and when you pull your lines tight, now you see our ball is just about done. So now when you look at it, we have just 1, 2, 3, 4 beads. So our next step, you already see we have 5 already in a row again. So now we just have to close off the area with a seed bead and sew into that bead next to it, which is that pink bead right there. If I can see the hole, there we go. And pull your line tight. And at this point, you're going to want to take your little round bead. I call it a stuffing bead, and it could be anything that will fit through. So you could try either a big pearl or a big crystal bead or a marble, whatever will fit in there. You just want to stuff that in there, because without it, it tends to be a little bit squishy and it won't hold that nice shape. So by stuffing that 1 bead in there, it helps to kind of hold it and tie it all together. So now I would just, because I did my 1 seed bead in here and went through this bead, I'm going to continue with adding 1 seed bead on this side, and we're just closing that top, so 1 seed bead and 1 crystal on the opposite side. So I have my 1 seed bead, 1 crystal. one seed bead and cross through the last bead added, the last crystal added on the other side. So now when you pull the top, somehow I ended up with all purple, but that's okay. So I'm going to now add one seed bead because I just have to join. So I'm just going to sew one seed bead, cross through the crystal, one seed bead, cross through the crystal, and just keep going. But you know what? That might bother me. So I'm going to take that one purple out. I'm going to add this blue. You could count the amount of crystals you use for each one and, like I said, pattern it better, but I kind of don't think that far ahead. So so anyway, so here we go. So cross through that last bead added. There we go. So now it's a little different. I'm happier now. Okay, so again, one seed bead. I'm going to get one seed bead and go through each of these bicones. One, add another seed bead, cross through this next bicone right here, just to join all our circles together, or all our flowers rather. And now I'm going to cross into this blue right here and pull my line nice and tight. So now my ball is really done. But what I want to do is I want to make a little loop of seed beads so that I can hang it onto my keychain. So on one end, so on this end, I'm going to string up about 10 to 12 seed beads, just depending on how long I want to make my loop. Okay, so 10 seed beads. I can just hold them all together. With my opposite line, I could just cross through all of them at one time. So you want to go back and just to reinforce them all, just to make sure, because it's going to hang on the keychain, you want it to be a little bit more strong, because that is where the stress of your beaded project will be holding on to. Okay, so now you see how it looks like kind of like a D. So I want to actually go back into that middle bead here, cross back into there. So I have my projects on the other, and my lines are on the opposite side again. So now they're on the same side. And now I want to take one of my lines and go back through all those beads one more time. I don't think it will go more than that, so I'm going to stop at that point. So I'm just going to go through all of those seed beads. A few more to go. All right. So kind of just pull your threads together so that you can kind of get them all in the same place. So on this other end, I want to bring both of my lines together, so now I can tie a knot. So just make sure it's tight. And now we can just tie this into a regular knot. Okay. Just make sure it's nice and tight, your knot. So rule of thumb is you never want to cut your line right where your knot is. You always want to take your line and feed it through at least maybe 3 to 5 beads or more, depending how much you feel comfortable doing or the time you want to take. Is you never want to cut right there, because your knots will find its way to come apart. All right, so I think I went through enough beads. So now I can just take my scissors and just cut off the excess threads. I just usually kind of pull up with my line and push my scissors down on my project so that it makes it easier to cut, and I can get as close as I can to it. So here I am with my ball, and now I want to attach my keychain finding to it. So on this particular one, it came with this cute little chain, but if yours doesn't have a chain on it, you can just even hook it onto this kind of ring. If you're going to hook your beaded project on a ring like this, you want to attach a secondary jump ring, a really heavy duty jump ring or split ring to attach to this, just because it needs that room to flow nicely. So because if you just hooked onto this, it's going to not give it a nice flow, and it's just going to be kind of messy and break faster. So what you want to do, because this has this cute chain already, you're just going to take your tools. So it can be either two of the same type of thing or two different tools. It's up to you. Basically, we're just using these tools to open up our last link of jump ring, our last jump ring here on this chain, or chain link rather. So just slip it on and give it a nice closing. Make sure it's nice and tight and you don't see any gaps. And basically, you are done. And so from here, you can attach your keys onto here. This part can hook onto your handbag or onto even a planner, or it could be really a nice big zipper pull even. Anyway, I hope you had fun, and all of these supplies and more you can find on Eureka Crystal Beads, and the supplies we used in today's project you can find in our comment section. Thanks for joining us.